Right.
You go to Luke chapter 12, verse 37 through 41. It talks about the good servants and the evil servants. And it says, blessed are those servants who the Lord, when he comes, finds them doing what? Watching. And then it says, and this know that if the good man of the house had known what hour the thief would come, he would have watched. Okay? And would not have suffered his house to be broken through. And then Peter says to him, well, Lord, are you speaking this parable to us or to everybody? So this goes to the core of the question. Verse 42 through 46, the Lord said, well, who is the faithful and wise steward? Okay, the faithful and wise steward whom his Lord will make ruler over his whole household. It's basically the ones that are watching. And then it says this, of a truth I say to you that he will make him ruler over all that he has. Now watch this. Now he's going to talk to the evil servant. He says, but and if that servant say in his heart, my Lord is delaying his coming, okay, and he shall begin to beat the men servants and the maidens and to eat and to drink and to be drunken, the Lord of that servant will come in a day when he looks not for him, and at an hour when he is not aware. Wow. So again, we're seeing here he's speaking to the foolish virgins. He's speaking to the evil servants. And he rebuked the Pharisees of his day for not knowing the time of the visitation when he came. So now, as you know, you can't build a doctrine on one verse. You have to look at everything together and how they all tie. Now, the one verse where he says, no one knows the day or the hour, not even the Son, but the angels in heaven. So now I have eliminating all the other verses as not applying to those that are watching. We come to one verse, and that verse has very much to do with a Jewish wedding.
Yes.
In a Jewish wedding, the father would have to make sure his son had everything prepared and ready. And if anyone would, the Jewish man, when is the wedding, he would always say, ask my father, only my father knows. That was a traditional response. Now, also, the Feast of Trumpets was known as the feast where no one knew the day or the hour because it was based on the sighting of the new moon. So no one knew when the day or the hour was. And it was kept, and it still is, as a 2-day feast because they would light fires on the hills to let the Jews in the diaspora or in Babylon or wherever, they would light fires on the hills. And so because the Jewish day starts at sunset, at the sighting of the new moon, and everyone's asleep, they're not going to know till the next day that it actually was the Rosh Hashanah, and by then the day's mostly over. And they had to keep it. So they would keep it a 2-day feast, and it was known as one long day where no one knew the day or the hour that it was going to begin. So it's kind of like if I told you, I'm not going to tell you when I'm coming, but gobble, gobble, gobble. Okay, Turkey Day, you know.
Yeah.
Well, when he says...
That's a clue.
Yeah, and when he says you won't know the day or the hour, he's telling you it's the Feast of Trumpets, because that was known as the feast where no one knew the day or the hour that it would begin.
Wow. Now, putting all this together, I go back to 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, where Paul says, but of the times and seasons, brethren, you have no need that I write unto you, for yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so cometh as a thief in the night. Now this begins to make some sense to us.
Read the rest of that verse.
The rest of the verse, right after that, is, for when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. But ye, brethren, are not in darkness, that that day should overtake you as a thief.
In the night. So he's telling you the day of the Lord is not to overtake you as a thief in the night. Exactly. 1 Thessalonians 5 says the day of the Lord will not take the watching church. It will not come to them as a thief in the night. It's only the dead church.
These studies, though they may at first seem complex, are really quite simple. The way God has placed signs in the heavens on specific Jewish feast days. Now, we were talking about the Lord's coming as a thief in the night to the unbelieving church. Paul uses the term sudden destruction in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, and in Luke 21, there's this phrase, verse 34, take heed to yourselves lest at any time your hearts be overcharged with surfeiting and drunkenness and the cares of this life, that day come upon you unawares, for as a snare it shall come upon all them that dwell on the face of the whole earth. And you know that Greek word that's translated unawares, Mark, means suddenly and without any warning whatsoever. forever. All of this ties together in a most interesting way because we look at the signs and we watch and we wait, but the world right now is fast asleep.
Yes, and I compare it to Abraham and Lot with the sudden destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. Abraham was the watching church. Lot was the sleeping church. Lot sat at the gate, and the nation of, or the city of Sodom, they didn't mind Lot having any authority as long as he didn't make any rulings. And the minute Lot tried to tell them something, they said, "Who made you a judge over us?" What's fascinating, Lot's name in the Hebrew picture language, every letter used to be a picture when the Torah was originally written. And Lot's, the first letter of his name is the Lamed, and it was represented by a shepherd's staff, and it meant authority. The last letter of his name, then the Vav, okay, which means to attach. It's like a nail, to attach. And then the Tet, the T sound, was the picture of a serpent. So Lot's name represents the church that's given his authority over to the serpent.
Wow. How about that?
Backslidden.
Yes, exactly.
Really backslidden.
Now, we're speaking, I think, to J.R. and Mark, we're speaking to people out there who want to see the appearing of the Lord. We have a faithful viewing audience. And J.R., we've gone through cycles of watching. And you and I have often said one of the most difficult things that you can possibly undertake as a Christian is a faithful, day-by-day watching for the imminent return of the Lord. You can get bored, disinterested, discouraged. All kinds of things can happen to you, and you'll forget to watch. But we're trying to urge you that this is the time to watch.
Now, Mark is a Messianic pastor. He follows the Hebrew of the Scriptures and the symbolism of Judaism to help us better understand the Bible. Tell us a little bit about this Feasts of the Lord, Passover, through Rosh Hashanah and the Feast of Tabernacles. There's Pentecost. Actually, there are 7 festivals. Give us a few of those.